Click a button, buttons. Click a bunch of buttons. Click
Actually,
a button, click a
those
button.
buttons. Yeah, click a button. I mean,
Clickable.
click, click a button.
Click, boom.
Click, click, boom. Get your life in the room. Then you make a
Yes.
assume, and then when you assume, boom.
Click a bunch of buttons. What's today? Wednesday? It must be because we're here, right?
Yeah, every Wednesday when we're here, and somewhere else out there somewhere.
We'll be there until we're not.
Yeah, sometimes we get here and then we're actually not really here. We're just there, but when we're here and there, we're everywhere. We're always here. But actually, consistently most of the time, besides those other times, in any other time between, we're always here on Wednesdays, unless we're not, right?
Yes. You'll always be number one in my company until you're not.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So we got to hang out last week, so that's why we weren't on we didn't do the live video last week because I was in Dallas and we got to hang out, but I spent most of my time at the hotel at a conference, the high level summit.
Uh,
So many
Question
different
is,
things.
what did you learn there? What did you learn there?
Jeez, that's the
Oh,
question, right? Like there's so many different avenues of things to learn. Well, number one, I guess I would say that the Go High Level software has the most amazing customer support for what it does that I've ever seen ever. So for those of you that don't know what high level is, it's basically a CRM software that will send out automations, do your social posts, do your emails, do your text messaging, create websites, create funnels, create workflows, and basically it's a marketing tool. Now, with that being said, a lot of things inside of it are really simple and they made things that are really simple. Yet, because things are made simple, there's a lot of things in the back end or that need to be looked at in case something isn't working right or maybe you don't understand something. And they had a team of like 30 people you could go talk to about anything in particular at any given moment to figure out anything that you could do to fix whatever you had going on. And they also had another group of people that were just the AI professionals that handled that situation. So if you went into a room and there was something wrong with your workflow or something wasn't syncing right or maybe things weren't activating the way that you wanted them to activate, they would fix that technically. And then they had another section where it was like, oh, we added 300 new features and they're mostly like AI oriented, so we have a group of professionals to teach you how to make things happen faster, to make AI work for you. And then, well, once you get all that working, and if that wasn't working right, then you'd go back to the other table and they'd fix it for you. At the same time, it was really easy. And I only had a few questions. So the only questions that I had is that since I'm in a DJ business, I work with DJ Event Planner, and I'm sure many of the DJs that follow me or talk to me or they're thinking about high level, they would probably want to jump off of DJ Event Planner to go to high level. So I went and talked to the geek room and I found out it doesn't do all the things that DJ Event Planner, which is another CRM, it doesn't exactly work the same way. So I was like, well, okay, let me go talk to the AI guys and see if they could figure out how to do something. Basically, it's in the works. Like what I wanted to do, it's not ready to do yet. Yet it's on the checklist of and keep in mind that they did 300 updates on like they went through on stage and talked about all the updates. It was like 300 of them. And the owner of the company was like, "Well, that's instead of explaining each one because it would take, forever in a day to explain each one of the updates, he'd be like he'd give you the title and then give you a short description and then say, "Let's move on to the next." And then any questions you had about these 300 updates, you could just go talk to the AI team. So that was just one aspect of what I learned in Dallas. And then because I was in Dallas and because I was also participating or watching promote what do they call them? Public speakers. I was watching public speakers and that triggered another community of mine, the NLP groups, the people I haven't talked to in forever. And then they see so there was the guy who closed the summit. His name is Nick, and I can't remember his last name. It's a really long last name. But anyway, he was born with like some sort of I don't know, like a birth defect, right? So he had no legs. He's got one arm with one finger, right? There's no five fingers, and then the other arm is a stub. So he's a very popular public speaker, and he's talk. Oh, so he also so many different avenues. So I saw that he did an interview with Ed Milet, and if you've never heard of Ed Milet, look him up. I saw him speak live at another convention that I went to, and he's pretty great at gathering emotional and uh, get you up and motivated to go ahead and do things. And then, well, so Nick, the guy with no legs, he was up there and he was explaining that he uh, was groomed by Tony Robbins, right? So he toured with Tony Robbins. I think he said he was on a tour with him for 4 years. And then when I listened to him speak, and I've listened to Tony Robbins a lot throughout videotapes and stuff, and actually one of the things on my checklist was to go see him live. And well, anyway, this was the next best thing because he spoke a lot like Tony Robbins because he had been with Tony Robbins for multiple years. And well, that was just one of the many different things. Again, it was public speaker who has been multi-successful. If you've never heard of Kevin Harrington, he is the first shark on Shark Tank, and he shared his story. His story is kind of interesting. If you've ever heard of the Jinsu knife or OxyClean, right? All when he first started out, that was kind of the things that he did. He invented the infomercial. So when he invented the infomercial, it started with the Jinsu knife, and then he did a few others after that, quite a few actually. And then he moved, and then of course TV was on the downslope, right? Cable was the channels started to expand, so he didn't become. He saw he was like every time I walked in the office, it's like burning down, and I still got things to do. So funny enough, he went to Tony Robbins Island and talked to somebody over there who told him, "Hey, man, just because this is failing, nobody knows who you are, but they all know who your front men are. So they're the ones getting all the opportunities. So you need to release a book." He releases a book, and of course he promotes it because nobody knows how to promote like this guy. And as he's promoting the book, the guy from Survivor Island ends up, catching his eye, and then he becomes the first shark on Shark Tank. And from there, he ended up taking Celsius to where it is now. And for someone who invented a social media, social well, he invented the infomercial, and then he also created social media influencers. And he did this with Celsius. So he went over to Celsius, 10 cents a share. He ends up getting a rapper called Flow Rider to promote the drink. And then on top of that, that's when he paid all these people to put Celsius inside of social media people. So that's when it became a big thing. So to invent a shopping network, basically television before there was no television, and to invent uh, social media influencers or create social media influencers is this guy is something out of this world. And then you think about these really high achievers like Steve Jobs. Like how many times did he reinvent the world? There was no such thing as an iPhone when he like okay, like to go back even further, like invention of the computer that does all these different things, changes the world. And then he invents the iPod, which came out before the iPhone and changes the world of how you listen to music. And then he invents the iPhone, which takes all your things and puts it into one device. These things are revolutionarizing the world, or whatever that word is, multiple times. Just like Kevin Harrington, who was able to revolutionize the world multiple times as well. And I find that extremely exciting and cool to watch. So that was just a brief highlight of just a few of the tips that I learned while I was in Dallas.
Wow, there's a mouthful.
There was a lot. There was a lot. There was so much information coming in. Remember when we talk about 5 bits of information plus or minus two, how much can you intake? So I was recording things, and then sometimes your conscious mind could get overloaded because I also was running a business while I was over there. So I'd have to break away from this exciting environment, go to my room so I could shut out everything and then put together timelines, tell crew where to go, a whole bunch of things. And I noticed I was missing more details than normal because I was so overloaded with so much information and so many different avenues to go. And they talk about an analysis paralysis if you won't do anything if you have too many options in front of you, that kind of thing. So it was like you live in the moment. You can only do what you can do, and whatever rings out to you, whatever excites you, go in that direction until you perfected it. So that's a good starting point for what I had for today's talk.
Yeah, every once in a while, take a few deep breaths and say, "It's going to be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. You're here because you've made all the decisions to be where you're at today. So understanding that and realizing what that means and where you want to go. And then again, if you don't have a goal to focus on, where are you going? Like you're just randomly doing all this other stuff and you're like, like a boat. Like, do you have a mission of where you want to go, or are you just doing one of these circle things, right?
My brain's going on a
I
boat
over
without a
just like
paddle.
right now, how I've overloaded Jeff with my information. And the funny thing is, we didn't even talk much about the summit at all while I was there. Like we were just catching up on old times. We went to an aquarium and we had a few NLP tricks about looking at frogs. What are you looking for and that kind of thing. So you know, it's just kind of where we're at. You want to enjoy the moment for the moment and you don't want to also bombard somebody with information that maybe they like, maybe they don't like. They also want to have a connection with you, but like, how does that work out, right? Like, you just enjoy the moment.
Like we're doing now, enjoying the moment.
Namaste. 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 I would tell you one realization that I've had a couple realizations. I don't know if it was because I was there, probably. Uh, is that people think the answer is simple. They see somebody out there doing something and wow, they think it's just a simple answer. And the person who does know how to do it and make it simple, well, yeah, we could tell you how to do it. At the same time, it's like, well, do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? And it's not like you're patronizing or telling somebody they don't know anything. It's just, well, I see you doing it. Why can't I do it? Well, I could explain it to you, but at the same time, I still got to get you up to the level to understand what I'm telling you. Like, because I thought of it like this, like a metaphor. Like you can't go to a 10-story building and just jump to the 10th floor. You got to go to the first floor. Maybe you walk up it and then you get all that information. And then, okay, I think I'm ready for the second floor. And then you get to the second floor and find out you didn't know everything on the first floor. And then you got to go back there, figure out what you didn't know, then get to the second floor. And then maybe the second floor is pretty easy and you get to the third. But it's not like you could just go up to somebody, ask them what they're doing, and then expect to do it tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. And I'll give you an example. And it's been weighing more in my mind. I don't know if because I'm like conscious to it, or maybe I haven't seen how far I've gone, or what the case is. I posted one of my AI videos on my Facebook feed, and then I had somebody text me, "Oh, what app are you using?" I'm like, "Great." And my response was, "Oh boy." So I went to my YouTube video because I have a 6-7 minute video that explains everything that I did to make a video like that with some minor adjustments because I was using Sora versus Bayo 3 or whatever, but it was the exact same process. So I copied the link to the video, which if you're not following me on YouTube, you need to because I'll be releasing that video too. But anyway, I copied the Sora 2 video, copied it and gave it to this guy. And then, oh, I just want to know what app you're using. I just want to know what app you're using. I gave you a 7-minute video that explains exactly everything that I did. Oh, I just want to know the app. Did you watch the video? No.
I love this story.
I, um, and I have instances like this probably on a daily basis, 2 or 3 instances like this. And my advice to you or anybody that's watching is I explain this all the time. I have empathy, probably not a lot of sympathy. I have empathy. And what does that mean? That means I walk into a situation and I don't assume anything. I ask clarifying questions to understand what the whole situation is, what the person in front of me is, so that I can ask better questions moving forward. So, in a situation like this, you'd be like, hey, I like that video. What was the process of making it? Well, here's a video to watch it. All right, cool. If I have any questions, I'll get back to you after I watch the video, right? Empathy. I want to understand where you're coming from. That doesn't matter if I care where you're coming from, but I have to understand where you're coming from, right?
And this is when I come in and go to Scott and say, hey, people don't know what they don't know till they know they don't know. And this guy doesn't know,
You know?
you know? So, yeah. what I my brain when I was listening to you, and I don't remember what the product was called, but I keep on thinking level up,
Yeah, that's what
level up.
high level, and it was called the Level Up Summit.
Okay, so what I was thinking when you were explaining that is level up, because uh, you don't know what you don't know till you don't know until you find out you don't know it, and then you got to decide if you want to do it. This is what we talked about several times, and what I see is people, like you were saying, they believe it's so simple, but there's so many backstories. You have to, it was like years ago when you said to me, I said, man, I said, could you help me with this thing on the computer? And you said, oh, that's simple. I don't know why you don't know that. And I said, well, you know, maybe you could come over. What's really simple is juggling knives on a roll of bowl, spinning a plate in your mouth, balancing water on your head. And now that's a pretty simple trick. And so why don't you come over and do that? And then I'll do your little computer trick. But the real truth is each one of those things took process. Yeah, I mean, you had to first learn to balance something on your head, okay? Or you could have learned how to juggle first, or you could have learned how to do a rolo bolo, or you could have learned how to put a stick in your mouth and spin a plate on it. All those things. In each process, it is a learning curve. And then each time you put one together, now you have a learning curve that do both at the same time, and then exactly like what he was saying earlier is that each one of those steps to get where he is in his company in each process he had to learn, and each one brings him to the next level. And he was given an example of going up 10 flights, and that's exactly what we have to do is we have to build our base. Maybe I would say build your base and then work up from there. Because you go to somebody and you ask them how they got there, it took them many, many, many steps to get where these guys are. It wasn't. It was also attitude, how they got up every morning, how they addressed the world, how they do each and every day, and that's how we want to ask you to do the same thing for yourself. Get up every day and do your best, and that could be for happiness or whatever you're working on. And like he was saying, without a kind of a goal or a plan or something, you it's harder to get anywhere. That's why when you have more focus, you can get places quicker. A lot of times you can do this exercise. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be in 2 years? And then put that all in. What do you want in that 2 years? And then in your brain, map out all the way back to where you are and what all those steps it took to get to that other place. And then you can start, then you got kind of a map. Just think if you were trying to get to a different city from the city you're in and you've never been there, or a different state, you could, if without a map, without having some sort of a map, you could take so many detours that led into dead ends that it would take you months to get somewhere where it could have taken you hours. So uh, find your maps.
I guess this is the major thing is just watch what you're assuming. What like question everything. And another thing, sleight of mouth, right? When you understand what sleight of mouth is, you have 16 different ways you can go. And when I come into a situation and or something hits my subconscious or I have some sort of goal or if somebody is talking to me a certain way, it spirals multiple times depending on what's happening into I don't know, 16 different avenues. And I'm not assuming anything. I have like, well, if this checks out and this checks out, nope. If this checks out and this checks out, yep, okay. Now if and that's how I think, like constantly. And once you've trained I guess the biggest thing is, Jeff was saying, have that map. And I've ran into some people who say they can't think that far out. which is fine. We can work with that as well. So you would, it's like a muscle, like anything else, right? You just got to work it. So how would you work that map, or how would you work that goal out? You would start with 5 minutes. Okay, what do I want to do the next 5 minutes? And then you would stretch it to an hour, 5 hours, one day, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years. And then it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better it gets, the stronger you become. And I know some people may have an issue with pride. They won't want to admit, or maybe they want to brag, or they want to just talk about their accomplishments instead of, what is it, 2 ears, one mouth, right?
Two ears, one mouth.
Yeah. So you
Listen
could,
more than you talk.
and then the more tools you have, like when you learn NLP and how people think, you just let them talk. And then you could start to evaluate what makes sense. So here's something for you to think about. I've slowed down now. I got that little bit of information out. Here's something to think about. And I had an interview with a DJ that wanted to join my company. And this is something that triggered off while he was talking to me. We started asking about his history. And he said that I used to work at a roller rink and then I went to the military. I come back and then all of a sudden I'm not allowed to DJ there anymore. I don't know why. So here's an equation. What could be true? The truth could be, well, I actually don't know why I can't DJ there. Truth also could be, I know why, I'm just not telling you. And then you start, okay, now we have two things. Well, the guy could be honest or the guy could be telling a fib. Okay, what would you do in this situation? Would you drill him on it? No. Triggered in my mind was, well, maybe he's unethical. I don't know. Well, let's go over ethics and see if that triggers anything. And then I went over all the ethics in my company and I said, here's my ethics code. Please sign that and get that back to me. And if you want to be a part of the team, here's my W-9 form. I haven't heard from him. So, assuming he's telling the truth, he's going to get back to me. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't want to hire somebody who isn't responsive. Or, oh, I have to sign this. That means I have to be, ethical. I'll just let this go. Well, I haven't heard from him and it's been 3 days. It's up to you to decide.
Some people just procrastinate.
Yeah, and that's another question. Would you want that on your team? And I also explain that in our ethics.
Mm, yeah. And then another thing you got to
Oh,
say,
I'll give you a counter example.
okay,
I have another guy that wants to join my team, and it's a photo booth gig, and he he from I didn't have a lot of work for him. I couldn't fit him in, so he would text me from time to time. Hey man, still here, still here. And then Dion hits me up and says, I need this. I need a photo booth attendant. I was like, wow, we're slammed that day. I'd love to give it to this guy. So this guy was like, yes, but I need to train. I'm like, I want to make sure I want to work it properly. And he says, I know you have a business and I know you have a brand, and I want to make sure that I'm executing your brand. And then we set a time for him to come over. And then on top of that, he brought his sister. And then he texts, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. Shows up, spends 2 hours with me, explains his whole life story, and then says, I'll make sure that I'm there for your event, and then leaves. Which one of the two would you rather hire?
well, of course.
Yes. And it's
Well,
all about how you evaluate the information. And you have to learn and grow as you go to find out what makes sense for you. Now, this is my map of the world. Your map may be different. Maybe different things work out better for you. I've found, if you watch one of my videos, I talk about the 4 different types of personalities. I've found that security people work best for my personality. And I'm pretty good at picking out who those are through our questioning.
there you go.
And we have a video that explains the 4 types, and then you can figure out which one you are, and then figure out which one matches your personality. Because it's like a build your own adventure. But if you don't have the knowledge to understand what you are to begin with, or how you could evaluate someone in front of you, then you're just kind of, you don't have a base to go by. And none of this stuff is exactly true, right? One of my friends explains it. He goes, sometimes the football takes a wonky bounce. Yeah, that's something you have to factor in as well.
Life takes a bounce.
Yeah, things happen, things you weren't expecting. And just because we explained one thing and that's a good base to go by, somebody else may have a different way to explain it in different categories, and that may work better for you. And I know that I'm auditory, so I like to break things down into as small categories as I can and then go from there. Someone who's analytical probably wants to have a whole spreadsheet of everything, and they're okay with that kind of information. I'm not. So yeah,
Man, there's a mouthful like every week. What would you say for one thing you would say that that you could give them for a takeaway from your summit?
that's a great question. And actually, Antoine asked me that question on Facebook because he saw the guy with the no legs. His name is Nick, the handy capable, we'll call him. And also, I have a soft spot for people that are handicapped because I don't know how many people know that my mom was handicapped, quadriplegic. She could use one of her arms when I was 2 years old, had a horrible car accident. So every time I see somebody who's handicapped or handy capable, or however you want to call it, man, it's a life that not many people would be able to understand me because we had to laugh about everything. I mean, this is just what it is. So we made jokes and we're sarcastic, and that's how we got through it. Because we're not going to sit there and cry about it and have a pity party. So, with that being said, Antoine asked me what my biggest takeaway was. So, when it comes to the biggest takeaway, it's that just keep moving and grooving, and whatever happens, just learn from it and move forward. Even though that's like an old repetitive, thing that we say all the time. But yeah, it's so true. And actually, let me go back and because there was a few like that is even what I told him. That's just what I came up with right now. Even though that is the core of it, right? So if I go back to this picture, he asked me that question, and I wrote a little bit. Then I went back and wrote a little bit more, and then I wrote back a little bit more, and I was and I was like, "Oh, he's an NLP guy. He'll understand this." Like so basically, the biggest takeaway from well, the software is that they release 300 updates, and then on top of that, I don't know. I guess you would consider me a baby in the marketing industry, right? Like I didn't realize that okay, for instance, that they have a software out there that will do SEO for you, and then I have a friend of mine who the only does it all he does is SEO and he charges $1,500 a month per client. And then I found a software that'll do a lot of what he's already doing and it'll cost you $100 to $500 a month depending on what plan you get. And then I could go out there and get $1,500 clients. And I was like, I didn't know it could do that. Like I've been like, or yeah, you could get up to $1,500, $800 to build a website. And then people normally just throw that in for free when they get up your with your monthly service. And I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I could build a website. Like I went the whole week going like, I didn't know I could do that. So another big takeaway is that just because you know how to do all this stuff, and I personally like to talk about the gadgets and how they work, and this implementation can be placed in as well. I could talk about so many geeky things, and client don't care. They want the results. Just make it happen. Okay. So yeah, you will overwhelm somebody. Maybe this video itself is probably overwhelming because we like to talk about the fine tuning of things versus like, well, what if you just went out and jogged? How do you feel? Well, I can tell you, go out and jogging raises your heart rate and get your blood pumping. You get to sweat out your toxins and go on and on and on. Like, but basically, if you just go out and jog, you'll feel better. Like, and that was the biggest takeaway. You'll either bore or confuse because of the people in front of you if they haven't if they're not a part of that circle or if they don't have and again back to the situation in the beginning of the video where I was everybody just going around assuming everything like hey, they think they're on your page like but they're not and then once you start explaining to them well how are they going to take that information oh you just think you know it all or oh thanks for sharing I didn't realize how uneducated I was on that topic. Or is that patronizing too? Because I find myself explaining things a lot and, well, I explain it fast because I got a lot of other things going on. And some people may think that's harsh. I'm trying to be as honest as I can because I got other things to do. Get to the point.
Think about what you just said a while ago, though. and leveling up. And you were doing the same thing. So it's not that Scott's anywhere, Scott's at a higher level than a lot of people in a lot of knowledge because he's studied a lot and got degrees and studied and studied and worked and studied and worked and studied and studied and some more work and studied. Now, even though he's done all that, he goes to the summit and he didn't know he couldn't do this. He didn't know he couldn't do this. Now he finds out he could do this, this, and this. It's the same thing. Everybody's at their level. So, what we want, wherever your level is, wherever that is, what can you do today to start to level up? One more level to get the information. Because you really, and this is the truth with everyone, even the people in the higher, as you go, we all learn. And when you stop learning, you're stagnant, and then that's a place you probably don't want to be. But when you learn, you're actually growing, your brain is still surviving, and you're usually happier as you're growing and learning. And even no matter what level you get to, you're going to be learning more. And the more you learn, the more usually more happiness you have and the more power you have to control your own life. So, no matter where you're at, let's start
Yeah.
today to level up.
So back to one of the speakers, right? Kevin Harrington. I could go up to him right now and say, "How'd you become a millionaire?" And he'd be like, "Well, I went out and started with filling up cracks in driveways. Figured out that was getting me nowhere. So then I went to putting in AC conditioning or AC and heater vents into houses. Well, then that got really complicated, so I sold the business. As I was selling the business, I realized I get into the business of selling businesses. You know, like that's how I did it. Go, it's so easy. Like, okay, I'm gonna start filling up cracks.
And that the thing right there too is when you do more of it, it does get easier. And uh, you might have some friends or people you know who will do something and then they kind of out they just move on because it's not challenging to them anymore, so they go do something else. And I call these geniuses, and geniuses can do this. What we and even geniuses, we want them to focus on what they want, because some people learn differently. Some people are better at focus, some people are better. What we want you also to do is find out how do you learn, because he was talking earlier, audio, visual, kinesthetic. What do how do you feel? How do you when you learn, do you see it and that's how you learn it, or do you hear it? When
You got to
you
go out there and
fall,
do it.
well, yeah,
That's
I know you can
kinesthetics.
do it. Yeah,
I learned by hands on.
right. And actually, we probably all learn by all of the senses, okay? Yet we have more of a prominent or dominant, not prominent, dominant. Like mine is visual auditory. I learn by watching and then listening. Uh, I'm not very kinesthetic per se. Like I'm not into reading as
So you say
much.
you're visual auditory? Okay.
Well, and you can tell people just a few hints when people talk faster when they're visual, and so they're like good all over the place. And then kinesthetics usually, talk a little slower and they're a little bit more like that. And sometimes if you see the two, you'll see their opposites. That visual me, blah, 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 and you'll see the kinesthetic.
Yeah.
And so
I had such a hard time listening to the top guy from Google that I was like, golly, it's so monotone. It's like so slow paced and like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to put this into my software and speed this up and give it a different voice. I'm like, golly. So,
isn't that funny? They already
like,
have that. You can speed up
yeah.
people's voices. I do that all the time. Is I make it go a little bit faster because
I recorded it, right? So I could put it into my software, get the captions, and then put it into another software to give me a better voice, and then change the rate.
and as we're talking about this, see if you can figure out how you learn the best, you can
It's killing me.
adapt your learning. And
You start
if
getting
you're
antsy in your seat. You're like, I can't do this.
well, the hint if to the other people who are working to be like uh, speakers is being aware of your audience. Some are kinesthetic, some are visual, some are audio. So, what you really want to do to keep all the crowd, you want to start not with visual because visual's too quick and you could lose your kinesthetics. You start out slow and then throughout your speech, you're doing a little bit of everything. And that keeps all your crowd because once you learn, what you probably don't want is everybody in the audience looking at their phone unless you told them to do an app.
Yeah.
Anyway, we spread out all these places, but uh, once you go to a few of these conventions, I find that the other thing is if you do not put into action what you learn, a lot of like 90% is going to go away. So when you come out of convention, write some stuff down and really take action on it and learn that, even if you just learn a little, because you want to get something out of it. If you and not that you don't get anything out of it, because we're always learning. Every moment changes us. There's one thing that cannot not be done is change. We're always changing because everything we hear, every moment you're a little bit older, everything changes. Our bodies, our thoughts, our minds, and just like your body, what are you putting in your mind? What are you putting in your body? Matters how your body and mind's going to work. So think of knowledge as nutrition.
Oh, you don't have to think of knowledge as nutrition.
Don't think of knowledge as nutrition. They're going, what the heck's these guys
Yeah.
do?
Okay, back to the gadgets. The mind doesn't understand negation. So just because you put the word don't in front, it's just something to catch your attention, but you still got the knowledge and nutrition inside of your brain, right? So you'll still focus on that because the word don't doesn't mean anything.
Just think of a purple. Don't think of a purple elephant
Yeah, you have to think of a purple elephant
to not think about it.
to put a line through it, right? So, so many things. So many things. All right, so I guess that's basically all we got for today. I'm glad I got that out because I still have to record some videos. And here's another thing to keep in mind as you travel through the day. I know one of my goals was to create YouTube videos, long form YouTube videos for the YouTube channel, and my subconscious kept telling me, "No, you ain't doing that today." And I don't know there's a bunch of NLP tricks that we could use to snap ourselves out of it. But do you really want to force yourself to do something that your subconscious is saying, I need a break. I need a break. You better give it a break. And then when you feel better, come back to it. Because how good is it going to be if you're just pushing yourself through something you don't want to do, right? Anyway, that's all I got for today.
All right, guys, have a beautiful day.
All right, catch you in the